So I think we should begin now. Uh, I guess we're good to go, guys. All right. So today's session, case study zero to hero. Basically, the main aim for today is that we're going to try to make you familiar with what business case studies are, how to tackle case competitions, and what the relevance of case competitions are. So before we begin, I want you guys to know what to expect from today's session, as well as the overall structure of how today's session is going to be. So firstly, we're going to discuss a bit about case studies, what they are, what their relevance is, what their purpose is. Secondly, we're going to talk a bit about business analysis in general, as well as some case solution frameworks, like how do you exactly go about solving cases and how do you present them. Then we're going to discuss a few solutions, and so I have a lot of solutions which I have used myself, like screenshots from my own PPTs, and I have solutions from people from IIMs, from ISBs. So I'm going to share all of that with you guys so that you guys can have a good idea of how people who are actually working as consultants or people who have actually worked studying in IIM Ahmedabad, how are they doing it. Then we are going to go delve a bit into slide design as to how to go about that, and also discuss a lot of strategies. So we'll have a lot of live examples. We'll also be discussing some winning cases solutions. Right. Before we begin, I think that you guys need to understand that there's no exact correct way to solve a case study, right? There are extremely diverse ways, but still, why should you care? Why is it important? Because one, all of you will become managers someday. I'm sure that all of you are from a reputed college, and you are ambitious in life. You are going to manage teams and become leaders at some point of time in your career. And at the end of the day, every job is a business, right? If you are an engineer, you're selling your services to someone. If you're a computer programmer, you're selling your product to someone. At the end of the day, you are in a business, and the most important part about business is understanding it, right? So that's what case studies essentially are. And yeah, so there's no master blueprint to case studies. We'll be discussing a lot of different ways to go about it, and this session will focus solely on case studies which are asked in business competitions, right? Um, so yeah, let's get ahead with it. What exactly are case studies, right? So coming to the definition of it, I think case studies can be broadly classified into two or three things. One, it could be a business scenario, right? What is like, and few examples of business scenarios are things such as, let's say, I am Apple, right? Apple did not have the iPhone Mini maybe 3 years back, but now they have launched an iPhone Mini. So that's a new product line, right? It's a new price, it's a new phone size, it's a new product line. So that is a future prospect. Maybe it was a future prospect back in 2015, right? So the company decided, why should we enter this market? It's a low price range market, right? So it's a future prospect. Another thing is retrospective analysis. A lot of things that Apple used to do, they don't do it anymore, right? So let's say they stop some product line. In retrospect, that business was bad. So they aren't doing it now. So that's called retrospective analysis. That's one more thing. Another main important thing is consumer behavior, right? Let's say that people tend to not change their phone for 5 years, and that is why Apple has introduced a Pro phone or a Pro Max phone so that that lasts longer. So these are the kind of things in which case studies are applied to in real life, so you can understand that. Next, what is the purpose of it, right? The purpose of case studies is extremely simple. First is to understand business, as I told you, right? Why a new product is launched, why an old product is discontinued, what more features can we add to a product to make it better receptible to the public. These are the things which you can only understand if you do a case study. Another important thing is that about developing a product, right? When you, let's say, Instagram did not have reels before, it did not have stories before, it did not have so many things before. Why are these features now a part of Instagram? Now you can reply to messages on WhatsApp, now you can send voice notes, you can even pay on WhatsApp now. How are these features coming around, right? What if somebody just invented WhatsApp and just left it as it is? Then nobody would use it. The purpose of case study is to always develop your product. And what is the relevance of it, right? Why are we discussing this today? Why is this case study thing important? Because each and every company that you dream about, like let's say ITC, Amazon, Apple, Microsoft, or any whatever your dream company is, every company will have a case challenge, right? You can just open Google it. Everybody has a case challenge, right? It's extremely important. All MBA grads do it, engineering grads do it. Almost everybody from any field of life does take part in case challenge, right? From diverse sets of life. This is something which is extremely important because it gives you an in-depth understanding about businesses. So that is the purpose of case studies, right? So now coming into how does a case study actually look like? So this is a live example. So this is a case study which I had participated in, I think, a few months back. So it's a company called Advent. So this is how a layout of a case study looks like, right? You will have some information about the company over here. Then you will have what the case is. So over here, they're trying to establish a new manufacturing unit in Goa, right? That is what the case is. So they need to explore what would be the pros and cons, what is the geographical advantage, and things of that. And at the end of all these information, there might be some questions that are asked. So these are the typical kind of questions that are asked, estimating what is the current market size, what are the different product categories, media creation, advertising. So this is how a typical case study would look like, right? Any case study that you participate in, it will have some kind of information as well as some kind of questions or deliverables that you need to answer. So many of you, can anybody identify this? Which case study is this from? I think if you are interested in consulting, you will know the answer to this. If somebody can unmute and tell me, NIT students might have solved this. If anyone can unmute and tell me. All right, so this is from ZS Associates. ZS is a company that does come to our college. It provides a lot of internship opportunities as well as placement opportunities. So this is their business case challenge. So this is how exactly it looks. You have data sets, you have a lot of background, then you have some questions which are asked, right? Questions like developing data flow diagrams, developing algorithms, these kind of strategy-based questions which are asked. So I'll just give you a few more example of what case studies look like so that you have a better, more thorough understanding. This is, I'm sure many of you are you're familiar with Business Club in our college as well as TAB, right? So Business Club and TAB had a NetMeds case study which I participated in my third year. So this was the questions asked in that case study, right? So their case study was on NetMeds, which is basically an e-pharmacy. So they had this is what their questioning looked like. So there are these kind of case competitions which happen within your college as well as outside college. So this is one which I participated in outside college. It's sponsored by ICICI. And if you can notice over here that they tell you to solve the case in 2 slides, right? So one of the more interesting question that we're going to answer today is how can you fit that much information in 2 slides? That's also one more thing that we're going to see. And this is, if you recognize this logo, this is from IIT Roorkee. This is a case study that I won last year. So in this case study, this is a product-based case study. Over here, they have given you some data regarding regarding some accident statistics, as well as now you have to develop a product to kind of counter these kind of things, right? So these are the different kinds of case studies. As you can see, there's no single pattern. There's no single this thing because business is diverse. It's every business is different. Every case study is different, right? That's why I'm showing you a lot of examples so that you understand it. This is an example of Hindustan Unilever. It's one of the most coveted MBA jobs from all IIMs, ISBs, and all top management institutes in India. So I'm sure of all of you have heard about Unilever. So this is what their case study looks like. So basically, they have given you some information. They have asked you for some deliverables over here. They've asked you what are the consumer insights and things of campaign ideas and things of that sort, right? So by now you must have understood that there's always some kind of information provided to you, some kind of data, some kind of scenario provided to you, and you are asked to provide some kind of deliverable, right? So that is what case study is in a nutshell. So I hope that with the definition and with these examples, you guys have a good understanding of how it looks like and what to expect from it. So just one last example. So I interned at Bajaj Auto last year as a project management associate. Over there, also during my internship, during your summer internships, also you might have to undertake case studies, right? So it's extremely important for your career to know how to do it, at least to know how to do it effectively. So this is just a mini case study that I had to do for my internship. So as Bajaj Auto is a automobile company. So this case study was based on automobiles itself. I had identified a few details, done some kind of financial analysis, shown what the impact of the financial analysis is. Then I made some alternatives and how to optimize that. So we'll get to how to do all these things, but I'm just giving you an overall view of why it is important for you, whether you're aiming for placements, for your MBAs, for your future, for internships, for everything. Any phase in your life, you may come across or you may be, given a duty to solve a case study, and that's why it becomes extremely important. So yeah, let's learn how to solve cases through a meme. So I think Okay, tell me how many of you have been given a survey form to fill? Can you just raise your hands? A survey form, like any MBA student or any of your friends will be like, "Bhai, ये survey कर दे, fill कर दे." Just raise your hands. How many of you have been given an MBA form or a survey form to fill? Right. So this is a very popular meme amongst in Instagram, that all MBA people do is ask for survey forms, and you just fill a survey and that's it, right? That's what you do in your MBA because you don't have any technical projects and stuff like that. So I want to like, did you ever ask yourself that why do they fill survey forms, or what happens after you fill a survey form? Have you ever wondered, like, let's say you have filled a survey form, we all have filled so many, but what happens to it after? What's the purpose of it, right? So let's find out what's the purpose of it. Now, coming to surveys, surveys are the most important thing because every business is run by customers, right? In the end of the day, it doesn't matter what product you build. If your customer is not ready to pay the price that you set for that product, you have a failed business, right? You may be the biggest genius in the world, you may have the most technologically advanced product in the world, but if your customer is not ready to buy it, you have failed, right? You have failed to understand your customer, you have failed to understand your market. And that is the importance of a survey. So whenever you're doing any kind of case study, it's extremely important for you to conduct a survey. But what is the second most important thing in a survey? The right kind of questions. Why are the right kind of questions important? Because the right question gives you the correct insight. Knowing what to ask is good management. Think about it. If you are developing, let's say, a food product or a drinking product. There are so many drinks out there. There's Pepsi, Coca-Cola, fruit juices, Rani, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Where do you position yourself and what is the sentiment of your customer? Right? Knowing what exact questions to ask. Do customers care about vegan food? Do customers care about non-carbonated drinks? Do customers care about health? Do they care about calorie intake? What do they care about, right? The correct questions will give you the good insights, which will give you good profits. That's a simple equation. And the last thing is goals, right? So now that you have done your survey, you have asked the correct questions, what to do with that data, right? So I'll just give you a few examples of what you can do with survey data, and then I'll show you how they have done it. So a few things is product placement, things like market segmentation, things like pricing, right? How do you figure out that a Lay's chips packet is 20 rupees or 25 rupees and a Doritos packet is 50 rupees, right? How are these prices set? Why isn't Doritos 10 rupees? Why isn't Cadbury 100 rupees, 200 rupees? How are these prices set in the market, right? Understanding that is through customer surveys. How much is the customer ready to pay for your product? That's the kind of questions you ask. So let's see a few examples. So remember the NetMeds case study I told you about by Business Club as well as Tab. So this is the slide that we had made. So in this slide, we conducted a small survey in which we found out that there's a lack of trust as well as a lack of customer support within NetMeds, right? So once we found out these two characteristics, what did we do with that data? We try to propose some solutions. So let's say the customer support is bad. So now we partner up with a company who has a good customer support, like let's say Reliance. If we say that the lack of trust is bad, then we implement some kind of technology which instills trust, or we partner with some kind of influencers who people trust in, right? So only when you write the ask question, when you ask the right questions, then are you going to get the right insights. Once you get the right insights, you can use that right insight and data to make conclusions. And once you make that conclusion, you have identified your problem, right? And that's the point of a case study, to identify the root of a problem to solve it. Similarly, over here, this is an IIM case study. I won't go much deep into it. It's about a toothpaste company. So they have conducted an extremely thorough survey. But just a couple of things I want you to note is how they have structured it. So in the previous slide, you saw how I've structured it. That is extremely rudimentary. This is how the MBA students are doing it. So they're not only just conducting the survey, but they've also shown you what kind of problems that they have identified and what is the suggestion to solve these kind of problems. So this is what is happening to your survey, right? So now next time when you fill a form, now you know that what your input you're giving, how it is being used in the actual industry to make some actual business decisions. So now that you know this, so now we are going to get to the second most important thing. But before we do this, let's do a small experiment, right? Uh, how many of you think that iPhone is the best mobile out there? Just raise your hands. How many of you think that iPhone any iPhone is the best mobile brand out there. Okay, all right. So now, why did I ask you this question, right? Let's analyze this a bit. Does iPhone have the best camera? Not really. I think there are phones with better cameras. I think it's widely regarded that S21 Plus has a much better camera. Does iPhone has a like a good economical price range? I don't think so. I think OnePlus Nord or any OnePlus 9 or OnePlus or any other Chinese brands have much better price for the kind of features. Is iPhone the most cutting edge in innovations? I don't think so. I think Huawei has much more cutting edge innovations in terms of camera technology, in terms of features, in terms of so many other things, right? So why is still iPhone a bestseller, right? It's not the best in many other things, not the best in battery life, and so many other things, but it's still the bestseller, or it has the best and the most loyal customer base. Why is that so, right? Understanding this question is extremely important for you to understand case studies, because case studies are all about branding, right? Why is case studies all about branding? Because as we have already understood that you don't need to be the best on paper to be the best in the market, because the market functions on emotions, right? The engineers are building products, but leaders are selling products and bringing profits. And that is why MBA grads are getting paid more than us, right? It's extremely important to understand that a product does not need to be the best in specs for it to be the best seller, right? A product needs to have a USP. That is what is the positioning of Apple, right? Apple is positioned as a status symbol. It is marketed as a status symbol. Its strategy is built around comparing Apple devices with Apple devices. It does not compare itself with anything else because it doesn't see anything else as competition, right? And that is the point of case challenges. That 90% of case challenges are to hire bright business minds who can build a brand. So whenever you're solving a case study, always remember the point is not for you to come out with the best specs or the best solution. It's for you to come out with the most appropriate one which can control the market and sell, right? Because selling is what you're doing at the end of the day. So always try to remember that don't be too innovation focused while case studies, because it's not a hackathon, right? Technology is just a means to an end in a case study. Be finance focused. Learn to implement the technology to make solutions, right? Always try to include things such as marketing and advertising impacts, because those are extremely important. And always try to make your brand memorable, because a memorability is a sign of a good manager, right? What is Gillette marketed as? The best a man can get, right? The moment you think about men's products, you think about Gillette. Why? Because for 100 years they have marketed it as the best a man can get, right? Even if a better razor company comes in with much more sharper blades tomorrow, they still won't be able to beat Gillette, because their marketing is strong, not because their innovation is strong. So always build a good brand and through your case studies. Always focus on that. Now, so we have spoken about the two, three main important overhead things to keep in mind, but you're still probably unsure of how to exactly, go ahead with a business case. So let's explore a few of the core frameworks required to ace your case. So over here, I've compiled a few of the frameworks that I have used. Obviously, we cannot cover all of this, and I don't want this to turn into a business lecture. So what you guys can do right now, I'm just going to wait for 5 seconds. Just take a screenshot of this, right? I'll tell you why later, but just a screenshot of this will help you to at least have a roadmap of how and what you can implement in your case frameworks, right? Many of these things are things which you have already studied or will study in your third year, fourth year, or read in some management book. All of you know what SWOT analysis is. You have learned it in school. You have learned the 4 P's of marketing: place, price, product, promotion. You have learned about BCG metrics if you're in third year, and a lot of other these things: product life cycle, value chains, customer journeys. And there are a lot of things on this slide which you haven't heard about also. Things such as, if you notice over here, there's this Heyerfindal-Hirschman index, right? I'm pretty sure none of you have heard about that. There is Nadler-Tushman congruence model, Brute-Litwin casual model. I'm pretty sure none of you have heard about that. And there's good reason why, right? So this, just a screenshot of this will help you understand what are the different approaches of, some frameworks, right? I will show you a few slides of how these are implemented, and we will also be sharing a few links as to where you can read more about this. But just knowing the name, you can Google it and read more about this if you're interested in knowing it. But these are broadly the commonly used frameworks in any case study which you will pick up, right? Or at least case solution that you pick up. So just touch upon a few things. All of you have heard about SWOT analysis. Can someone unmute and tell me what it is? What does SWOT stand for? First, there are 76 people here. If no one unmutes in 2 seconds, I'll call someone. What does SWOT stand for?
Stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats.
Correct. Thank you so much. Right. So we all have learned about SWOT, right? But what do you do after your SWOT analysis, right? You have found out what the company's strengths are, weaknesses are, opportunities are, threats are. You also need to do what do you do with that information, right? So now I know what my weaknesses are, what my strengths are, what my opportunities are. How am I going to use my opportunity to make my company better, right? That is SWOT strategy. So another thing I want to touch upon is 4 P's of marketing. So anyway, so let's get into the slides. I hope all of you have taken the screenshot. I'm just going to wait for 2 more seconds. If you haven't, please do take a screenshot of this. This will be helpful for you in your future whenever you're trying to solve cases, right? Uh, yeah, another extremely important thing you need to understand. Now, just because I've given you 30 frameworks doesn't mean you use 30 frameworks or use 10 frameworks. You need to use frameworks wisely. What do I mean? You need to understand where to apply what. I'll give you 2 examples, right? So many of you must have heard about Porter's 5 forces model or Porter's 5 forces analysis, right? What is it used for? Do any of you know? Does anybody know that? If you know, raise your hands. I'll just wait for a couple of seconds. Does anybody know where Porter's 5 forces model is used? All right, no issues. So this is what textbooks don't tell you, right? They'll tell you what the model is, but where it is used is in planning market entries. So let's assume I gave you the example of iPhone mini, correct? So iPhone mini is a market entry into the cheaper phone segments for Apple. How do they plan that? They do Porter's 5 force analysis. So it's very commonly used in, yeah, thank you, Soya. That's a good answer. So it's used for new entrants and market entries, right? Uh, so the next another example I give you is BCG matrix, right? What is BCG matrix primarily used for? So if you know what BCG matrix is, we will see it ahead. But if you know what it is, it's primarily used for understanding your product portfolio, right? Which products are your best sellers, which products are giving you losses. You're understanding your product portfolio. That is what it is used for. So understand why these frameworks are used and in what context. So don't simply apply them everywhere. Have some understanding of where and how to apply them. Cool. So I hope by now all of you have taken the screenshot so we can move ahead. So now we'll just share a couple of examples so that you guys know. So this is another solved case study. So over here, what they have, this is a case solution, by the way, it's not a case study. This is a solution of the case study. So what over here you can see something called customer segmentation, right? It's extremely important to understand your customer. You can see they've divided it up into tech savvy people and technotards. Obviously, technotards are old people and tech savvy people, these young people are active tech users, so you reach out to them through things such as Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook, blah blah blah. Technotards, you use brick and mortar stores to reach out to them, right? What does a customer journey look like for a tech savvy person? He probably takes suggestions from his friends, then he goes and uses social media, explores online, then he purchases, and then he makes the purchase, right? What does a customer journey map look for a technotard? He talks to their friends and neighbors, goes to the store, and then purchases, right? Now notice one thing: you don't even know what the case study is. You don't know what the question is. You don't know for what product am I showing you this customer segmentation and customer journey. But one thing is for sure, that you have very well understood what I'm trying to tell you, right? Because not because I'm telling it nicely, just because the slide is really great, right? If you notice very carefully, everything in the slide is done so perfectly. All the designs. The moment you look at the slide, you know that you're talking about two different kind of people, what their different personas are, how are you going to approach them, and what does that approach look like, right? So this is how you use a framework. Framework is obviously customer segmentation, but this is how you implement it. So yeah, let's look at a few more examples. So this is a case study I did at IIT Madras. Another extremely important framework to use is something called competitor benchmarking. So this was for a biogas plant. So our product was called Biome, and there were 3 other products that we identified, right? Then there were some metrics which we set. So is which products are cost efficient, which products are space efficient, which products are compatible with the infrastructure. Then we made a graph over here, so you know that these products in this area are used in rural areas. The products in this area are used in urban areas. These products are economical. These products are expensive, right? You don't necessarily need to understand what my biogas plant is to understand this slide. And that is the point of a case study, right? You need to deliver information in a way in which anybody can just look at it and understand in 2 minutes. So I'll just show you a couple more frameworks. So I'm pretty sure everybody on this call has heard about this word called business model, but I'm pretty sure that 99% of you have never actually seen a business model. So here's a business model in front of you now. You can take a great screenshot of it if you feel like, but these are the kind of things you need to learn in case studies, right? So many case studies will ask you, all right, propose a business model for your product. So what are the key features of a business model, right? Who will you partner up with? What are your key activities? Where are your key resources? What are your customer segments? What channels are you using for marketing? What is your cost structure of your company? Where is your company making money from, right? What is the value of your company? What is the unique selling point of your product? These are the kind of things which come in a business model canvas. So this business model canvas is again another case strategy framework. Let's say if I give you a case study, let's say I am Amazon, and I give you a case study to develop uh, something for an Amazon, let's say Amazon grocery or something of that sort, right? So you need to identify who are the key partners, what are the main revenue streams, where all will you market your product, and these kind of things. So this is how a business model actually looks like. So I hope this gives you a better insight. Next, just speed through it here. So over here is a BCG matrix. So this is what a BCG matrix looks like for those of you who don't know. Just long story short, it talks about which products are cash generators, which products are cash neutral, which products make losses, and which products are a question mark, right? What do you do after making a BCG matrix? You need to draw some insights from it. So over here, this is a toothpaste company, by the way. So they have put their 4 products, and the insight they have drawn is that a star product is missing in the portfolio, right? So you need to build that product. So this is basically used for analyzing what your product portfolio is. So the reason I'm showing you all this is that instead of just me defining what BCG matrix is, this gives you a better idea of how it's applied. So now you know कि okay, अगर मैंने बना भी लिया, तो what am I going to do with it, right? What insights do I get from it? So last thing is a cost benefit analysis. Obviously, this is extremely simple and self-explanatory. What are your costs and what benefits are you providing for it? This is another kind of framework that you use, an extremely simple one. So yeah, not much explanation needed here, but just want you guys to see how it looks like. Another important thing that you guys have probably come across is the 4 P's of marketing, right? Product, place, price, and promotion. Everybody learns this in any basic management class or any basic marketing class. You have learned this. So product, what are the new product features? Which are the places you can market? How do you fix a price for different product ranges? Which channels are you communicating? So this is how you actually use 4 P's of marketing, right? So these are the kind of frameworks that are there in the which you can use for your case study solutions, and this is how you implement it. Uh, so now coming to the most important part, how do you research for a case study, right? Many of you probably only use the internet. You just Google ki, okay, what is the blah 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 information, whatever information you need, you Google it and you probably use it. But there are many more ways for you to go ahead and research a case study. The first and the most important way is your network, right? Because understand this, your seniors, your LinkedIn contacts, and professionals who are working in the field will give you a much better insight on how a product works, on how a market works, than any kind of, let's say, Google article, right? The second way to research for a case study is innovations. So let's say that I'm working for a green energy company and I'm looking for new energy sources. So I think a very famous thing that's going on from last year is something called blue hydrogen, right? So it's a new technology as far as my knowledge. So you go and read about these kind of technologies and see if you can implement this, right? Know about the industry that you're trying to solve a case study for, so that you can get what the latest tech is. And if you use the latest tech, that will obviously give you brownie points, right? Then there are case books. Now, what happens many a times you don't know how to approach a problem. So there are many case books that are available online. Most famous is the Harvard case book, right? You can download a Harvard Business School case book. If you just type it on Google, you will get a PDF. Look at how they are solving cases so that at least you find a way to approach problems. And lastly, the internet. Now, understand, if you are in a business or case competition, everybody has access to the same internet as you, right? You're not making any different. You're not suggesting anything new. So always make sure that the only use the internet wisely and relevantly, only to gather data, not to base your whole solution on something readily available on the first page of Google, right? So try to use your network, try to innovate, and try to read some books that will really help you research for a case study. Now, one of the most dreadful things. So many of the slides I showed you above all of those are manually designed, right? It's not some ready-made design that you just type and it comes. All of those are manually thought and designed. So how do you improve this design process, or how do you make sure that you are a good designer? So first and foremost, always, if you have noticed in the examples I showed you, there's not much text. There's always more visuals, right? A chart always says more than an Excel file. And that is why the job called business analyst exists, or business visualizations exist, right? Next, remember, always keep it minimalist. If you have noticed, even my PPT, I have not written more than a sentence anywhere because I don't want you to sit and read over here. That's what I am for, right? If I wanted you to read, I would have just given you this PPT. You don't need me here, right? Always keep it minimal as possible. Too much information is always useless. Pareto principle, right? 20% of the things are responsible for 80% of the output. So always focus on that, right? Next is a timeline. I'll show you what this timeline means. And we also have something called segmenting. I'll show you what timeline segmenting means in the next slide. And structure, always spend 80% of your time planning your slides and 20% of your time actually designing them. So you'll understand this when I give you the examples. So before we understand what a good slide looks like, let's understand a bad slide. So this is a slide that I made. So if you see something on top over here, if you notice, there's something called title slide, business model, market strategy, references, annexure, right? So this is what a timeline is. So right now you're on the business model slide. So just by looking at the top of the slide, you instantly understand, all right, how far in the presentation am I in, what to expect next. So having a timeline really helps whoever is evaluating your case solution to understand. Next is segmentation. So if you have noticed, this is just one slide, but I've divided it into 4 areas. On the bottom over here, there's a value chain of how the product works out. Over here there's a geographical deployment, there's business models, and there's other things, right? Anyways, the details of what it is not important. It matters from case to case. Why I think this is a bad slide is I think this area is not designed poorly by me. Over here there's not much information, there's no visual cues. So if you notice in a customer journey map which I showed you like around 10 minutes back, there were visual cues as to how that journey takes place. There's no visual cue over here, so you have to sit and read better food security, this, that, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't make that much sense to you. Next over here, there's very little numbers on the slide. So now that you've understood what a bad slide is, let's go to a good slide. So this slide is of the case challenge from Oyo. I'm pretty sure all of you know what Oyo is. It's a room booking company, this thing. And this was their case challenge. And this was solved from an IIM Ahmedabad student. And one thing you can immediately notice over here on why this is a good slide. Again, she also has a timeline up here. If you can notice, there are 5 things she has put on a timeline: industry analysis, targeted segments, first day, big idea, appendix. So you're on the first part of a 5-slide presentation, and this is what you are going to get in this slide, and this is what you can expect on the next slide, right? So that's called a timeline. She has segmented her slide into 4 parts, and the 4 parts are very clearly stated what these parts are. Why is her slide much better than mine? 3 simple reasons. Firstly, so Oyo as a company over here, she has done what is called a competitor analysis, right? She has identified almost 7 or 8 competitors, but she's focusing only on 2 of them. Because as a consultant, it doesn't make sense for you to focus on 10 things. Always focus on 1 or 2 things and do that focus properly. So she's identified her over here, she's identified her competitors, and she's identified where her competitors are situated, what are the plans of the competitors, what does the market think about the competitors. That's called sentiment analysis. So just to explain a bit further, so Instagram thinks that Zolo stays is 4 out of 5, whereas Instagram thinks that Oyo Life is only 2 out of 5. So there's negative reviews on Instagram of Oyo, right? And that's what's stated over here. So unsatisfactory resolution of complaints, blah blah blah. So that's how you understand what your market thinks about you. And finally, she's provided a strategy. So this is a good slide because there's a clear progression of what the problem is, what the analysis of the problem is, and what is the final acquisition strategy for the problem, right? So she's provided the acquisition strategy over here. So this is how you design a good slide. It's visually appealing. There is not that many sentences. If you can see, the only sentences are over here, and those are also key takeaways, not more than 10 words. You can see that there's a lot of visual cues. You don't even need to know what this case study is about, but you can look at this small table over here and understand that they're comparing how the product is, viewed by the customers. So these are the kind of things. So now we can talk about a bit about formulating solutions. So always, as I clearly mentioned in the previous slide, it's better to do 2 things effectively than to do 10 things haphazardly. Always be clear on what you want to solve. and always try to have a minimum viable product, which is a demonstration of your product, which guarantees an upper edge. And as a case study solver, always make sure you have a plan B, which means more than one solution. And the last and most important point is always make some kind of recommendations, which you have seen in the previous slides and you'll see in the coming slides also. Make some kind of recommendations and also explain the risks that are involved in any kind of thing that you do. So I'll just show you a few examples of good solutions. So this is something, this is a solution from Harvard Business School. And this is what the people have done. So this company is Carlsberg. You must have heard about it. It's a beer company. So this is what the consultants in Harvard have solved. This is their executive summary. So this is basically the first slide that comes in your case study is where you summarize what you have done in the whole case study. So they've clearly shown you what the goal of their case study is, what the key questions are, what the key recommendations are, and what is the impact of that recommendation, right? So in one slide itself, you don't even need to see the rest of the 40 slides that they have. In one slide itself, you know exactly what they're trying to answer, exactly what they're going to recommend, and exactly what that recommendation leads to. With this one slide, you get a good overall picture. So just you can take a screenshot if you want. So this is how the MBA students in Harvard are making good slide presentations and good solutions. A few more examples, won't delve much into it, but over here also this is a slide that I made for HPCL. That's and over here also I have used minimal words as I can, try to segment everything into small points, right? Try to put in numbers, try to put in good visuals, make this slide visually appealing so that people read it and people are able to follow what you're saying, right? This is just a few examples, nothing too much to delve in here. These are slides that I've made. This is what a MVP or a prototype or something looks like. So always make sure whenever you're proposing a solution, people can visually see that what's going to happen. So this is from the biogas case study that I did. So this gives you a visual representation of what exactly my plan is, what exactly my supply chain is, and things of that sort. This is a very, very basic design which I did in my second year or whatever. But you can do this on Word, on PowerPoint, anywhere, right? But it's extremely important for you to understand these kind of solutions and these kind of frameworks and use these kind of things in your case studies. So that will give you an upper edge. And finally, I said you always need to focus on finance, because at the end of the day, every business wants to make money, right? Unless you're an NPO or an NGO, your primary focus in the corporate world is to make profits. So no matter what you're doing, so this is a case study that I did with Tata Steel, right? As you can see, I've included a timeline also up over here. So I have an executive summary, I have a problem statement, I have some solutions, I have team members, references, financials, everything, right? Now you'll notice a few things about this slide. I've put all my major text over here, which even if you don't read, the slide is still very useful because it tells you a few things. How much money I have saved, right? How much wastage I've prevented, how much material costs I've reduced, how much are my year over year savings, what is my profit margin, what are my energy savings. Just reading these three numbers gives you an idea of my whole project. You don't even need to know what I've done, right? But you know what my impact is. So that's the point of a case study, right? This is how you kind of encapsulate your financials to give an impact. So always make sure that you are looking at the finance side of things, looking at the money, looking at what profits are, because that's where your actual business impacts are. And it will definitely, if you make these kind of slides, it will definitely help you win case studies. So yeah, this is the last one. So this is how to make recommendations. So over here you have seen they've made a few recommendations as well as they've given a one-line solution, right? So this is a good template to follow for giving a final solution. So all of the things that I'm sharing with you are just templates, right? This is not the only way to do it, and this is not the best way to do it, right? There might be thousands of better ways, but this is a really good way that I have been exposed to, that I follow. And I think this is a really, really good way that IIM people have also been following, Harvard people have also been following. So these examples are taken from there. This is not my slide. This is from IIM Cozy Code. So yeah, so this is how they are doing it. So you can see they've made some recommendations, then they have proposed a solution, and then they've visually shown you what the solution looks like, right? So this whole slide really, really helps you understand how your case study has accumulated in the end. So finally, we'd like to say that we have also conducted a case study, I think about a month back, in collaboration with Innovation Garage, and we have had over 200 participants as well as 60 teams. So I think a lot of you wanted to discuss those winner solutions, right? So we have a few things. So instead of just discussing the solutions blatantly, I'm going to show you what they did right and how they could have improved it. So this was the team which had come first. The name was Kanya Rashi. So before we even go to that, this was the case study that we gave. So our case study was on Swiggy, and this was the data that we had provided, and these were the problem statements. We had asked for a pricing model, we had asked for some profitability strategies, and we had asked for some customer retention strategies. Extremely basic things. You will see these kind of things pop up in case studies, right? Asking for customer retention, for like market sizing. These kind of things are very common in any case study. So these are the questions we asked. So this was what our team. This was the team that came first. Got what we liked about this slide is a lot of the people who solved this case study, they spoke about Cloud Kitchen, but I think these guys presented it really nice. They told us what the solution is in one line, then they gave us an overall overview, and they showed us why that solution works out with some more data, right? I think this was one thing which they did good. However, if you notice that over here in the slide, you can easily see, now that you have seen the good slides, now you can easily see what the problem with the slide is, that there is not a good visual cue, right? You have to start from there, then go down like this, then again go like this. It's not a good linear visual cue. So it's not easy for you to understand this implementation procedure. So the reason I'm showing you this is not just to diss on them or whatever, just to like, these are the winners, by the way. So this is just to show you how can these solutions be improved, right? So this was the team that came second, the team White Miners. So what we liked about their solution was how they came about with a 5-point strategy, as well as so this was a summary slide that they made. So one improvement that they could do over here, if you have noticed in the summary slide, they have shown you what all they have discussed, and they've put a yes no column. It doesn't make sense to put this column because everything over here is yes, right? So this is a waste of space which could have been used with other design elements. So these are the small improvements which you can make if you guys are present. I'm sure Srijit and here are attending the session. So yeah, and this was, I think, the team which came third, the team Apostates. So one thing I really loved about their case study solution was that they had key ideas written on the side and it would be written in bold, right? So whenever you look at the slide, the first thing, it goes to that purple box and you know what they're going to talk about before you read this area. That's extremely important to give these kind of visual clues in your PPTs. And they also did a very important thing, which is competitor benchmarking. They compared Swiggy to Zomato, and I think they are the only team who did this. So I think this is a very smart thing to do. Always remember, whenever you're doing case studies, to compare your product with existing product, because that will give you a very good understanding of where your product needs to be placed and how you go about it. Right. So with that, we come to the end of the session. We had shared a Google form with you guys where you guys had shared a couple of questions with us. So first is, how do I start participating in case challenges? So by now, I really, really hope that all of you have a good idea of how to approach a case study, what to do in a case study, what are some few frameworks, how to design a slide properly, how to design a slide badly, because that's also important to know, right? So where do I start participating in case challenges? So if you have already noticed, I've shown you numerous examples of case studies which happen on campus, right? So we conduct our annual case studies. Innovation Garage conducts case studies. Business Club conducts case studies. These are the ones conducted on campus. Other than this, you have this website called Dare to Compete. So it's called D2C. On Dare to Compete, if you just go, many of you may be familiar with it, many of you maybe not. So if you go to that website and just type case challenges, you'll find numerous case challenges from IIMs, from Delhi University, from all across India as well as abroad, right? So over here you can easily register for any kind of case competition and try to implement these kind of solutions, because just attending this session is not going to make you an expert. Even I myself have shown you some of the slides I've made, and you could have already seen that even I myself am not an expert, right? I've been doing this for almost 3 years now, but still I'm nowhere near, because the more you do it, the more you learn how far behind you are. And I've shown you how the people at Harvard are doing it, how the people at IIM Ahmedabad are doing it, right? These are the top business schools that we know of. So you know how the good people are doing it, and how you can replicate those kind of good strategies and tips. So try to use Dare to Compete. So that's a really great website. So another question that we got was, what are the uses of case studies with respect to the career point of view, and is knowing case studies needed for any kind of job profiles? Right? This is a very interesting question, and I think somewhere or the other in the session I've answered this. So every job requires case studies, and I'll tell you why. Because at the end of the day, let's assume that you're a computer programmer, because many of you, I'm assuming over here, from either want to be programmers or software developers or something of that sort. But let's assume, for hypothetically, you're a software developer, right? What do you exactly do in Facebook? Right? You don't just show up and just start fixing, just start building new products or whatever. What do you do in Facebook? What do you do in Microsoft? What do you do in Amazon? You solve a business problem. Let's say that Facebook wants to explore the e-commerce market, right? Because they have such a huge customer base. So you need to do a case study to understand whether it's a smart move for Facebook or not, right? So any job profile you do is in a weird way a case study, because you're always exploring new ventures, you're always expanding your business, right? Amazon started off as a library. Today, Amazon has movies, it has Amazon Music, it has Amazon e-commerce and whatnot, right? How did this library suddenly start providing music and movies? How did it become movie studio, right? Because somebody in that company did a case study and wanted to expand the business. So no matter what job you do, at the end of the day, you are somehow analyzing businesses because you need to grow a business. So every job is in a way implementing case studies, according to me. So yeah, with that, we come to the end of the pre-prepped questions. I think the session has ended now. You guys, if you have any questions to anything that we have discussed in the session so far, please feel free to type it in the chat box, or I'd actually appreciate it if you guys can open your mic and talk. So yeah, we are done with the session. So if anybody has any questions or anything you didn't understand or any thought that comes in your mind, because of course I've dumped a lot of data on you, so it will take time for you guys to come up. So yeah, I'm open to questions. You guys can go ahead. All right.
Shubham, there's
So
one
yeah,
question. Yeah.
yeah, I saw it. I saw it. All right. So yeah, I can see quite a lot of questions. All right. So I think the first question was asked at 4:51 from Manav. Where can I find good case study solutions? It's actually much more simpler than you think. I'm pretty sure you have heard about a website called SlideShare. So just go on SlideShare, type IIMA or IIMB or IMC, whatever college you want, IIMA, and then type the case competition's name. So let's say Hindustan Unilever's case competition is called HUL Lime. So type IIMA HUL Lime case solution, right? If you type these kind of keywords, you will get solutions of IIM students who have participated in whatever XYZ case competitions and their PPT, right? So I think SlideShare is a good enough resource for you to find case solutions. Otherwise, there is something called case libraries. So case libraries don't exist in Indian B schools much, but in US B schools as well as Europe B schools, every big B school such as London Business School, INSEAD, Harvard, all these B schools have something called a case library, right? So there are case studies as well as case solutions. So you can Google that and you will get from there also. So yeah, I think yeah. What is the best tool to visualize data? Good question. So I'm assuming most of you present here, yeah. So right. So all of us present here are engineers, right? The best tool to visualize data, you can pick anything according to your convenience. So me, I have done some projects in Power BI as well as Tableau. I feel that Power BI is much more visually appealing and easier to use. That's Microsoft Power BI for visualizing data. However, I have never used Power BI for any case competition, right? For any case competition, you would at most need Excel and a bit of PPT designing. That's it. So, but if you really want to go ahead and use Power BI, I think that's an excellent idea. So you can use Power BI visualizations because they are dynamic. I think that's a good software to learn for data visualization. Or you can use Tableau. These are the most two popular ones. There are many more, right? There's RStudio. I tried RStudio also. Then there is you can do it on SQL also. Then there are thousands of softwares. If I start naming now, there's many of them. Is there any repository of publicly available case studies? Yeah, you can look them up in SlideShare or the case libraries of Harvard. Um, right. Do you have any pointers for thesis, like elaborate case studies? I'm a biotech student and I say that I have to compare 3 wastewater treatment plants, efficacy, etc., from their conclusions. Okay, that's an interesting question. So, what I'll do is I'll actually share my screen and I'll show you something. So, this was I'd say a technical case study that I've done. I hope my screen is visible. Can somebody please confirm it? Can anyone please confirm it?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Cool. So this was a technical case study that I've done. I wouldn't say this is extremely, I mean, of course it is extremely technical, but I would still count this as a case study, right? So I hope I'll walk you through this so you'll get the answer to your question, right? So this was for Tata Steel's annual innovation challenge. It's called Mind Over Matter. So this was our solution, which had reached the top 10 nationals, right? We didn't win, but it reached a good position. So I'll just walk you through it. So first and most important thing in your slide is obviously your executive summary, right? So this is an executive summary I provided. And if you can notice over here on the top, we have, I've provided the timeline also on what to expect for the whole PPT, right? Executive summary is basically just where you tell what all are the main points. Of course, this is a technical based one, so there's not much solutions and recommendations. This is it's all engineering stuff. Anyways, so you can put in your problem statements wherein, so what I'm trying to show you here is how I have used my case study knowledge to help me excel in a technical competition or an innovation competition, right? So I've used a problem statement. Then over here, look how I've framed my solution, right? I've shown it stepwise. It's very easy for you to see. You may not even be a chemistry student, but you know exactly what I'm doing. I'm using carbon paper to do soaking, then graphene oxide for synthesizing, what methods I'm using, what the reactions are. So I've given you overview of my solution in a visually appealing step-by-step manner, right? So this is how you approach it. Then what all chemicals and reagents I've used and what the synthesis process looks like, right? So over here I've had to use bigger sentences because it's a technical case study. So, and over here I've explained how I've used these chemical processes. Again, over here I've used a visual process. You don't need to understand chemistry to understand what's going on over here. It's extremely self-explanatory, right? So it shows you what my process is. So I've designed these kind of things on PPT, on Excel, on Canva. So this gives you a very good overall view. Then I've done some financials. Then I've shown my advantages. Then what the future scope is. So instead of recommendations, I've shown what the future scope of the project is. And then the team and references, right? So the reason I shared this with you is basically for you to understand that even in technical things that you told about, you're a biotechnology student. So even in those kind of competitions, you can definitely use the case study methods and case study frameworks, as I've already shown you. I've used a few, not exact SWOT analysis and all, but I've used the principles that I spoke about. Right. All right. Somebody asked our channel name. So it's Big Data Analytics and Consulting Cell. Just NITW. Type that on YouTube. You will get it. Big Data Analytics and Consulting Cell. NITW. Okay. Suppose one second. Yeah. Suppose I want to find a case study related to plastic recycling business. How can I find a case study related to this field? All right. It's a interesting question. I think you just Google it. You just Google like plastic recycling case studies. You will find a lot of articles. You may not find an exact business case study because a business case study are phrased differently. A business case study might be phrased as, okay, hey, this is the amount of pollution done due to so and so kind of plastics. We as an environment company want to implement so and so solutions. How would you go about it, right? That's how a business case study would be, because a business case study is very focused. So you can read about it, and many case books like the LBS case book, I think, does have things related to the environment, or the LBS is the London Business School. So you can read that too. You will find the PDF on Google for free, so that shouldn't be an issue. Does the data that we're using in a solution need to be accurate? Extremely good question. So yes and no. It has to be close enough to what the accurate data would look like, but 90% of the times the data you're looking for, you will not be able to find it, right? In the case study that I did for my Bajaj internship, I wasn't able to find a lot of details about R&D products because R&D products are patented and those informations aren't readily publicly available. So I had to pull a lot of strings, interview a lot of people, and find approximate budgets and make a number estimate, right? So you need to do it smartly. So if you're analyzing a company like ITC, you can't say that their annual revenue is 2 lakh rupees. It doesn't make sense. ITC is a huge company. Obviously, its revenue is much more than that, right? So your numbers don't need to be pinpoint exact. Of course, if it's available, then make it, but you won't find numbers pinpoint as you want to your convenience. So you need to estimate a ballpark. There are ways to do that. You ask people who are working in the industry. You compare companies, right? So let's say that Huawei and Oppo are very similar companies in terms of, or let's say Oppo and Reno, these Chinese phone companies are very similar to each other in terms of product, in terms of marketing, in terms of company size. So if you have some information on Oppo, you can use the same information or similar information for Huawei if it's unavailable for Huawei. So that's how you smartly do it, right? I wouldn't take iPhone sales and compare that to Huawei because it doesn't make sense. Obviously, iPhone sells more. So, I mean, I think it does. I don't know. China people buy a lot of Huawei. But anyways, you get the point, right? So you need to, data will not always be available, but you need to be smart about it. Is there a portal where companies make the data publicly available, which could be used for case studies? No. However, one thing I noticed is that a lot of business students do upload a lot of their case studies on SlideShare. So let's say that some information related to Bajaj Auto is not available publicly. You can go to SlideShare and look for MBA case solutions on Bajaj Auto, and you will find random case solutions with some amount of data. Again, as I said, the exact data that you want, you may not find. And even if you find the data, that data will be from 2014 or 2015. It's completely irrelevant in 2021, right? So yeah. Next, should we carry out this design in PowerPoint or any other? Good question. I use this website called SlidesGo, right? I'll just put it in the chat. Slidesgo.com. What the advantage of that website is, it has a lot of pre-designed templates, right? So many of the things are pre-designed for you, like at least the background, some elements and stuff like that are pre-designed. Some things you have to design on your own, right? If you like, let's say, let's just look at the slide that you're looking at right now, right? Some of the visuals on top, like this gear, blah blah blah. Some things you have to design on your own because these won't be readily available. It may or may not be, but yeah, some things you need to design on your own. Is PowerPoint enough for it? I think so, yes. However, you need to import a lot of things from PowerPoint to PowerPoint. So basically, if you want some design vectors. So once again, I'll just share my PPT again. Right. So if you look at this slide over here, many of these things. So like if you look at this icon over here, I hope you can see my pointer. Can someone just confirm that? You can see my pointer, right? Hi, can someone just please confirm this?
Shubham, I can still see your Tata Steel page.
All right, sorry. Just 1 second. I'll adjust it. Okay. Now is my PPT visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Cool. So yeah. So now if you look at this slide carefully, right? Wait, let me just use my pointer. Yeah, if you look at this thing over here, on the bottom corner over here, this kind of icons you're not going to find on PowerPoint, right? Even things such as, let's say, this college icon over here, or any kind of these colored icons, you're not going to find. Maybe these kind of icons, these black and white icons, you may find on PPT, but many of these PNGs and vectors you have to import from like any kind of website, freakpic.com or something of that sort, right? So the easiest way to search for these kind of small designs is, let's say you want a tablet, right? So you just type tablet PNG vector on Google, right? Basically what PNG means, what Google thinks PNG means is transparent backgrounds, and vectors will give you like these kind of digital designs. So just whatever you want to search, just put PNG vector at the end of it and search on Google. 99% of the time you'll find a vector of it. Many of them won't be free, so just be sure that you're downloading the free versions. But yeah, many of these design elements you will not find on PPT, so you have to probably import them on your own. But if you're a beginner, I'd suggest don't focus too much on design. Like if you have seen many of the solutions that I've shown you, that my slides that I've shown you, you will notice that even my design is a bit minimal, because now here's the thing about design. Good design will doesn't definitely guarantee you a win in the case study competition, but bad design will definitely make you lose, right? So design isn't an essential, but it has to be above a certain par. You don't need to directly start designing like I am Ahmedabad students. We can't start off there, right? If you start off there, then well and good, but you need to gradually progress towards it. I think the first thing you guys need to focus on is your actual solutions, what your actual content is, what your actual surveys are, what your actual frameworks are. The content matters more, because if you just put great design and no content, you'll still lose, right? it's not a design competition, it's a case study competition. You're supposed to put financial, you're supposed to put numbers, supposed to put recommendations, strategies, solutions. So that's the goal of it. So just keep that in mind that design is extremely important, no doubt about it. But don't just solely focus on that because there are other cues. Cool. I think that was the last
Yeah,
question.
just to add on to that publicly available data, I think a good place to start with is that particular year's fiscal year's no financial reports of the companies, which are readily available either in LinkedIn or through Google. Also, I think if you want more recent data, then I guess financial reports of that particular quarter is something that you can refer to, because all these information won't be available in internet. So if you go to these reports, then there's more data that you can use, and you can also get brownie points because not everyone spends time to go through all these reports. So if you put any report from the financial report or the annual reports, I think that would score you some brownie points.
That's an excellent point. I'm really surprised I forgot that. It's very, very true. So each and every big company or established company or any company in general will have something called an annual report on their website. And that's a 50-page, extremely detailed report. It'll have all the innovation the company has done, all the financials of the company, each and every penny that the shareholders have invested, to each and every dividend, everything. So that's publicly available. However, yeah, so these kind of data you can get from Money Control also. So there are some sites in which finance data will be more readily available because many of these companies are publicly traded. So all their finances are audited and transparent. So these kind of data will be readily available. However, R&D data might be a bit more difficult to find. So yeah, thank you so much, Shalini. That's a great suggestion. Cool. I don't think there are any more questions in the chat box. So with that, just stopping